for oversight today. Okay. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna push this live here. Okay. Okay. One more. Just give me, okay, maybe 1 more minute if you allow me. We're trying to go live here.
On my screen, it says we are live.
All right. Okay. I was just making sure that on LinkedIn actually we can go live, but
Hmm.
unfortunately the system here does not allow me. Okay, now we can go live. Okay, that's great. Okay. Now we're going live indeed. Now we're going live actually everywhere. So we are being live on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, and everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the absolutely amazing Tony Moroni and the beautiful Bärbel Wetenkamp. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have those two beautiful faces over here today. Join us, please, for an electrifying conversation with two visionary leaders, Bärbel Wetenkamp, CEO of Clarona Business Consulting and Nasiha Business Consulting, very soon on Oman, and we will ask her about that. And Tony Moroni, LinkedIn top voice and co-founder of Access CX. In this exclusive episode of the Swiss Quality Consulting podcast, we are diving deep beyond the hype to explore the true frontier of AI, customer experience transformation, and the enduring power of human leadership in an era of unprecedented digital disruption. Bärbel is the author of AI in Business Transformation, a book that we will be asking her about, and will challenge conversational wisdom on AI adoption, revealing how to spark grassroots innovation and cultivate authentic executive presence in a remote first world. Tony, a global thought leader and advisor to boards, will share his cutting edge insights on navigating agentic AI, operationalizing world class CX, and understanding what truly moves the needle for C suite leaders in a rapidly evolving market. This isn't just another talk on tech trends. We will uncover counterintuitive strategies for leveraging AI for tangible business growth. We'll be talking about the sacred cows of business that must be re-evaluated in the AI age, and we will be talking about surprising cultural nuances impacting global digital initiatives, as well as how to build resilience and trust in your teams amidst constant change and the unspoken fears executive face with digital transformation and how to conquer them. Don't miss this opportunity. Listen, and I'm absolutely sure you will enjoy it as much as I am certain you will. Tony, welcome. Bärbel, welcome to the show.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mark. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Okay, let's start. Our public, actually, our audience know Bärbel Camp very well. We have seen her already in a couple of episodes, but maybe let's start with Tony. Tony, tell us please about your personal journey. How come Tony is today where he is?
Well, I suppose I operate in the world of digital disruption.
Hmm.
So, my original career was in industry, but for the last, 16, 17 years, I've been involved in international management consulting. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've been involved in education as well. And as you said, I do a lot of thought leadership as well. So everything actually revolves around disruption in some shape or form. And what I do is I work with boards and executives all over the world in terms of trying to make sense of it all, because that's one of our big challenges. How do we make sense of a world that is so fluid and so rapid in terms of its advancements that if we just look at point solutions, we miss the whole plot. So I work with boards and executives to help them make sense of where is all this going and what does this mean in terms of being relevant and competitive in the future, because that's why we do things. We don't do things because of technology. We do things because we have a vision for our organization. We want to be relevant and we want to be competitive.
And you definitely are very competitive, apparently. Thank you very much for this, Tony. Please tell us a bit more, maybe, about your personal journey as a person. Like before we start talking about our work and our careers and what we do for business, maybe if you'd like to talk, I don't know, dogs, horses, whatever,
Well,
children, spouse.
well, so I live in Dublin, Ireland,
Right?
but I work all over the world. When I was younger, I played rugby, but actually, I suppose one of my passions is martial arts. So I'm a fifth dan black belt in Japanese jiu-jitsu. So I,
Ooh,
so I still teach martial arts,
ooh.
and I love travel. I enjoy seeing different cultures in different parts of the world, and getting the vibe for how other people see things.
Amazing. So when are you coming to Switzerland? Do you have friends here?
I do now.
What is it that you love most on martial arts? What does it bring into your life, Tony?
So I suppose your martial arts actually is incredible in many respects. So Japanese jiu-jitsu is the fighting art of the samurai, and all of these martial arts, they have a deep, I suppose, there's a discipline behind it, and it's actually, the discipline is about yourself. It's not about anything else.
Yeah.
So it also, I suppose, it gives you an additional inner calmness, because when you do martial arts, you have to learn to do things like control your breathing, control your energy use, all those type of things, which actually plays out in real life as well. So I would recommend that you all join one of my classes.
I think we should.
Yes.
Genuinely, many leaders that we talk to tell us actually about the challenge of sometimes being able to contain your emotions, like not react, but act actually after thinking and analyzing and being sure that you're doing the right thing. So definitely this could help.
No, absolutely. Look, I think particularly the Western culture, we're a very instant
Yes.
culture.
Mhm.
And sometimes we need to stop, pause, and reflect on not what's in front of us, but what it means down the road.
Mhm.
Our organizations are not necessarily good at that, and neither are people, because they're so inclined to, and it's just the culture we live in. It's everything is instant gratification, and therefore there's a
Yes.
feeling that actually I must do something now, and instead of
Yes.
sort of saying, "Well, hang on a minute, yeah, let me digest that." Look, when I'm writing, I do a lot of writing as well, and it doesn't always come to you in the second. Sometimes you maybe have a presentation to do, and it's mulling around the back of your head over the course of a week, and then when you sit
Yes.
down to do it, it just flows out.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
actually, you've been doing the thinking, not even necessarily conscious thinking, but it's been going on. The computer in your brain is
Yes.
working away. So when you're
Absolutely.
ready, and you're ready, you sit down and it happens.
Absolutely. As you know, we work actually with Bärbel and Clarona as partners. And some of the discussions when we were preparing actually and how we will help her write in her books, some of the discussions, I promise you, I'm not exaggerating, we realized actually she had the idea of a book 20 years back.
Yeah.
Like it's been
Mhm.
20 years back here.
Mm.
And now actually we are putting this to the world. But like some of the ideas that she had for books, they started like 20 years back. And you see this through the events and the anecdotes that she tells
Mhm.
in those books. Like some of those, they go back 25 years before. Some
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
stories, for example, are related to her son Valentine, and now he's like 30. And
Yes.
she's talking about him when he was a baby and he had an accident and he cut his finger and stuff like this. So
Mhm.
that shows you that this was like 30 years back. She was already thinking about, I want to write this down. I want to tell the world about this.
yeah. And I would say, look, we all work on assumptions, just the way we are, right? And over time, we can find that our assumptions may not necessarily be right, or
Yes.
actually there's a variation to it that I hadn't considered. So
Mhm.
there is merit in actually taking time to do it well, because
Yes.
you can just rush into things, and then you look
Yes.
at it 3 months later and say, "Oh, why didn't I think about that?" Or "Why didn't I include this?" Whatever. So I'm with you on this, Barbara. It's take your time and
Yes.
get it right.
Things need to
Absolutely.
ripe sometimes, right?
Yes.
And I really loved what you said, Tony. And I think these two aspects that you rose is discipline. We need this in life, and also to interrupt this ongoing thinking, be it under pressure or by creativity or wanting to achieve things. And then you have your inner voice and your brain is just spinning around the whole day. And then when it comes to martial arts, or what I use a lot also in my executive coachings, like leadership embodiment, you interrupt however you do it. You breathe, you stop. Some people meditate.
Yes.
um, I just
So
discovered this wonderful positive intelligence,
yeah.
where you interrupt your spinning mind for maybe 10 seconds, not more than 3 times taking a breath or feeling something, just to stop thinking. And this actually leads, and I guess this could happen with martial arts also, leads to having access to both sides of your brain, to be analytic but also creative, to be better in problem solving and so on.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's a couple of things. So look, in a combat situation, if you're on train, two things happen. One is you stop breathing, believe it or not, right? So they stop breathing, and therefore you can't get any air into your muscles, right? And the other is, whatever air they have, they use it all very quickly because they're rushing, right? And really, what you need to do is actually calm it all down. Breathe, not use your energy, right? And then think about, if you understand the fluidity of a martial art, well, then it's, well, I was planning on doing that, but actually that didn't work out, but I could do this instead. So it becomes just an iterative part of how you do things. But it starts with, getting that discipline and that, I suppose that inner calmness that you can sort of say, well, actually, and if you think about, pressurized work situations where, there's pressure coming from every front, if it's the market, if you're in a regulated industry, it might be the regulator, it's competitors, it's customers, whatnot. And, if you can't sort of calm down and sort of say, okay, well, what is this really saying to us? And you're going to run the risk that you rush to solutions, which I think actually we are going to talk about today, because in my view, one of the issues with digital transformation and AI and everything else is, there's this propensity to look at everything as a silver bullet solution. And actually the technology is nothing but a technology. It is not the solution. It might be something that is innate to us achieving what we want, but it's not why we're doing anything.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, let's talk about books, because we love books. Bärbel, in your book, AI in Business Transformation, you emphasize bridging the gap between tech and business. Share, please, your powerful analogy or a metaphor or something that you use in order to help non-tech executives to grasp the complex AI concepts, maybe one that consistently sparks an aha moment or something.
Oh, what a beautiful question. Thank you, Mark. When I talk to management teams, to leaders who are not very technical oriented or with their very busy days didn't really dive into the opportunities that we all have with AI, I see that there is either not the knowledge, so I'm not speaking technically, but what the different ways of AI can do.
Yes.
Like if we talk machine learning, if we talk AI agentic, if we talk generative AI, all those are sub AIs that can do very different things. And as there is a knowledge gap or missing knowledge, then it's also difficult, of course, to develop your strategy. So what I really think is, if you see AI as a new intern in your company, not the super professional doctor who knows everything, but really an intern, but this intern who has access to all the knowledge of your company, to all the emails, to sales arguments, to figures, to numbers, to people. And this will help you to raise up the efficiency, the creativity of your organization very quickly. So give this intern everything and let you help. But what on the other side, I really feel if people start to work with AI, I think there is a risk that we don't fall off and get dumber and dumber, but we remain intelligent and creative. So don't take AI just to clean up the floor. Be it yourself, think, create, and take the help of this fantastic, amazing intern to become faster, to become better, to get all the information you need, but keep your brain working and do your own creativity.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing this. Tony, if I may, you've held CEO roles in traditional banking before becoming an advisor on digital disruption.
Yes.
What's one lesson from your operational past that, let's say, profoundly shaped your current strategic advisory approach, especially regarding change management?
So I think, look, the reality is, and this is one of the wonderful things about, digital disruption and, AI and everything. Our organizations are built on a traditional command and control structure. And, the traditional thinking was that, the people at the top had the most knowledge. That's why they were at the top. And, because organizations became bigger, they became siloed, because you need silos, you need specialisms. So, control, finance, risk, whatever it might be, marketing. The problem is that those, silos become empires in their own right. And when you're looking at, the market and you're talking about customers, well, they really couldn't care less how you're organized. And so what they're looking for is they're looking to achieve something and they want to have a great experience. The fact that you've organized yourself in silos so that you can apply expertise at different parts, on one level, that could be great. But the problem is, if they operate in silos and the data is not shared and the experience is not, managed end to end, you end up with all of these disconnects. And one of the challenges that we still have today is that organizations are still silo driven. The data is not, ubiquitous and available to everyone. And one of the things about, all disruptive technologies is it challenges the power base of the organization. Because, it is quite amazing when you look at organizations and you look at senior executives, they have a control over a part of the organization and they want to protect that. And now, part of the challenge is to get them to park all of their day-to-day responsibilities outside the door and to think about, okay, if we think about our organization and where we want our organization to be in 3-5 years' time, not that we plan for that long anymore, it's too fast, but if we think about where we want it to be in the future, we need to think about, okay, well, that needs to be grounded in why. So what's the purpose of the organization? And then we need to think about, well, how would we get there? And when we figure that out, we can then talk about, well, what do we need to do? The problem that I see, apart from the silos, is they rush to, well, what do we need to do? And therefore, what you have is, a plethora of digital initiatives going on all over the place. Some of them are pet projects of different executives, etc. But it's not a holistic, transformation plan for the organization that is going to have it relevant and competitive in the future, right? So you might get some benefit. It'll be suboptimal at best. And all we have to do is look at the last 3 decades and the trillions of dollars that have been spent on digital transformation. Most of it has been suboptimal. It has not achieved anything near what it set out to achieve. And it's not because of the technology, I can assure you of that, because ultimately the technology is just the technology. It's because of the organization's ability to absorb it, adapt, and change. And there's where your problem is. And I see, AI is going to have the same challenge as, all the other disruptive technologies that we've had for the last 2-3 decades, because it's been implemented as a point solution to a problem. And look, most organizations, when they think of technology, they think, well, can it reduce costs or can it actually improve my compliance or things like that? They're not thinking about it in terms of, well, actually, how does this create value? How does this create a better customer experience? How does this empower our people to be actually at the forefront of giving great service and experience to customers? That's not where their thinking is. So I think there's a real difficulty here in terms of we need to get organizations at the top level in particular to realize they don't have to have all the answers. Their role in life is not to be the commander in chief with all the answers. Their role in life is actually to be the professional orchestrator of all the intelligence in the organization, some of which will be actually digital agents as well as human agents, and how to get all that to work properly so that the organization can achieve its ambition on behalf of its customers. And that's a fundamental mindset change, because that's not where organizations are, as I see it.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing this. Bärbel, I wanted to ask you about your book, but maybe before we start talking about the book, you want to tell us something about the preface?
Oh, yeah, I love to do. Tony, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm very
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm not only very, very happy that finally, after those thoughts, as Marc shared with us, have gone through my mind over many years. And really, it was a dream to write a book for many years. But I thought about it a lot. I didn't start. And I'm really, really happy to have brought out my first book. That's great. And thank you so much for your amazing preface. That's great. I am writing the second one, and I'm pretty far on it. So the journey will go on. So the first one is really, this is something which is really on my heart. This AI and business transformation.
Yes.
Like we just heard from Tony, the role of CEOs, but the role of management, the role of leaders, and the role of everybody. We cannot do a little bit of process optimization by using somehow AI. We really need a different approach, a different thinking, and leaders who entrust and help and enable people to go for it, to use it, to try, to play around, to experience, and only then to be able to come up with new ideas where we really can find change, because AI is the biggest change and opportunity that we have for businesses. But indeed, I fully agree with you, Tony. You need to have a vision where you want to go. You cannot take a rotten process and digitize it. This is old. We know this from digital transformation. And same goes for the current development. You cannot just continue to drive your business in a completely changed world by optimizing some things that are already there, but thinking out of the box. And therefore, I think you need to yourself as a leader have a vision where and what you want to change and achieve, where you bring opportunities and help and a better experience, but then encourage and allow your people to experiment, to try, to start. We don't have to be all the super experts. We need to start somewhere to really understand what it is, how it works, and what we can do with it, and change our minds to transform into the future. So I wanted to write this book, AI and Business Transformation, because I see maybe not the big companies, but a lot of SMEs. Of course, everybody knows AI is there, but I see people who are moving forward, and I see others who say, I'm too busy, we haven't started, and now the train is going faster and faster, and we don't really know how to start and where to start. And then you have discussions, do we need it, and maybe not, and the security, and so on. And I think we might agree on who is not buying into this big opportunity, which is changing our life and our societies and our companies, might fall off track sooner or later. So I think we all have to embrace it. We should embrace it. And I want to encourage companies and leaders who might not have bought into it yet. It's not too late, and it's possible, and you can do it. And you don't need to go back to university and study for 20 years. You can start, but you need to find your vision, what you want to do with it, and then start from little grassroots initiatives. Just encourage your people to play, to try, to start somewhere.
I'll come back to that, but if you allow me, one question for Tony. Given the accelerating pace of AI, what is one sacred cow of traditional business strategy that needs to be completely re-evaluated? And how are you seeing this play out in practice?
Yeah, I think there's a really interesting thing in terms of what Barbara is saying there. One of the sacred cows is, if we think about organizations, I think McKinsey's would say typically 9% of people are involved in IT. In this world, 100% of your people are involved in IT, because actually there is no coding, there is no nothing. You can talk to your artificial intelligence and tell it what you want, and it'll do it for you. So I think there is there's a real opportunity to actually amplify the power of your workforce. Now, obviously, you need to put in place the guardrails to make sure that the thing doesn't fall over, and then people aren't doing things you don't know. But the opportunity to really empower the organization. You mentioned CX at the start. Well, who are the people who understand where all the problems are? They're the people dealing with the customers. So if you can start thinking about how these technologies can empower them to actually solve those problems, to give better experiences, to give real-time information, answers, insights, whatnot, isn't that a much better place? So I think this idea that, look, I think, look, one of the problems, Mark, is when we talk about technology, it doesn't matter what it is. If we think about the executive, the senior management, the board, invariably they were born before the internet. They were born before the smartphone. All of these different things. So at best, they have a learned appreciation of disruptive technologies.
Yes.
It's not like our children who this is normal, right? It's not normal, man. And the thing about humans is that, look, if we think this is something that's not within our competence, we tend to run away from it a little bit. And I thought what was interesting in what Bärbel has done in the book is she's given lots of practical examples of, look, here's what X is doing, here's what Y is doing, and so on and so forth. Because if they think of it as a technology, they've missed the point. If they think about it, actually, this could help us do things, right? What are the big challenges that we have in the organization? So how could we crack that? Oh, AI could help us with that. Right? And then it's about, as Bärbel said, it's about, okay, well, let's start small and learn from it, right? Because the idea of, well, we're going to spend 9 months doing a strategic plan and 3 years implementing it, that's gone. Right?
It's over.
This is iterative, on the go, fast, furious, but controlled at the same time. It's not a free for all.
Yes.
And that means and I know Bärbel is into psychological safety. That's not a free pass to do what you like. That's a support for you to operate within certain constraints.
Yes, sir.
And be able to experiment and do things and prove that they work. Right. So I think it's a real interesting time. But I think, look, we need to get executives and boards and senior managers forgetting about technology and thinking about actually business. What is the business issue we're dealing with, and how does this help us? Right? Because if they're dealing with the business issues, well, actually, you now have context for why you might want to use the technology. If you're just implementing technology, well, that might be interesting, but it might do very little to your organization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Bärbel, let's go back to your work. Your work champions grassroots initiatives for AI adoption. What is the most unexpected or unconventional grassroots AI project you've seen a company successfully launch, and what made it work?
I would like to share a little story from myself to start with, and I will come back to your question, Mark.
Yes, please.
Tony, when you're saying it's not about technology 100%, it's about trying, it's about experiencing, learning, and just using it for your approach. When I love change, and I love to try gimmicks, and I love to be in new things. That really fascinates me. But when I think back to, I don't even remember when that was, times before the internet or at the beginning of the internet. I'm old enough to remember this. And I always love to jump on new things and to discover. But at that moment, I was kind of busy, overwhelmed, doing a lot of things. And then I received this letter in my mailbox from the German Post, who invited me to create something called a personal email, a digital mailbox, and have access to something called internet. So I read this commercial thing. And then I said, no, really not. You don't have to jump on everything. You've done so many things lately. Focus a bit, relax. You will not take this one. So I understood not very far long away that this was maybe not a good idea. But in like 3 years back, only 3 years back it was, I think, I read about generative AI. So the years before, I've been working in digital transformation. I knew also, I'm not at all technical. Yeah, I knew a lot about machine learning and so on and so on. But then I read about generative AI, about ChatGPT, and that normal human beings would have easy access to this super intelligent thing that is there for many years. And I got so interested and I jumped into it and read it and tried it from the very, very first days, and was then invited to go to Fort Lauderdale to give a speech on AI, on a generative AI and ethical implementations, ethical aspects. So what does it to the human being? What is about the potential fake and deep fake and so on? How can we take away fear from people to try it? And I think we still speak about this. And I was very surprised they invited me. And back then they told me you were the only one we could find on this topic. who has worked on ethics and AI. Today, of course, there's many people working on it. And this was a tech conference, 5,000 people. So I thought, wow, Bärbel from Switzerland, they're also savvy on AI. And now but this was really great. And it was in the first day. So maybe ChatGPT 3.5 was out 3 months back then. So it was really new and really funny. If we look from today, it is as funny as not writing up for an email address, right? It seems so far away, but it's only 3 or 4 years, I guess. So yeah, I think it's never too late. Just start. And if you have decided not to look into it, then maybe you change your mind today and just start.
Great, thank you for that. Tony, as co-founder of the Digital Transformation Lab,
Hmm.
what is the most unexpected insight that has emerged from bridging the gap between industry, academia, and consulting?
I suppose, look, they all come from different perspectives. So it actually is
Mhm.
fantastic when you pull it together because, academia tends to work on peer-reviewed research, and when you
Yes.
deal with things like AI and digital disruption, well, some of it's so new it hasn't really been peer-reviewed yet because it's only happening, right? But there is a discipline behind what they do. They don't take anything for granted. Everything is grounded and researched and peer-reviewed by other people so that it stands up to scrutiny. Consulting tends to kind of read the tea leaves and well, here's where we think it's going, and they'll try to sort of say, well, look, we believe the world is going this way and you need to be over there and we can help you.
Yeah.
And the tech firms rowing behind that and say, oh, and we actually have the solutions you need, right? And sometimes they work together. And then when you start unpack it all, you sort of say, well, actually, you need all aspects. So back to our conversation on discipline earlier. You need the rigor, and so you don't want to be betting the house on a whim, right? So you need some sort of rigor around this, but you also need to start evolving your strategic foresight skills. So how do you start to, because the world, look, we can't predict the world with certainty, but what we can say is, look, given everything that's happening, there's a couple of possible scenarios that could play out, and they will keep evolving, right? But at least we know the direction of travel, and we can we'll find assumptions. Oh, that assumption was just slightly off, so actually we just need slightly to the right of this one. But without that, you run the risk that all you're doing is reacting. And so I would say, look, the Digital Transformation Lab, it's part of the business school in Cork University, but it pulls these different mindsets together to explore where is it all going and to make sense of it so that people can just tune in and actually, look, they make the recordings available through the college and everything else. So students, third level students going through, they're interested in AI, they can look at a program, an interview. Well, actually, here's some people talking about the real world application of AI. So it brings, I would say, a real benefit in terms of having the academic perspective, the business perspective, the consulting perspective, and sometimes the technology perspective. But as you'll gather, look, I see the technology as a means to an end. I'm not being dismissive, because I think we're all in technology now, whether we realize it or not. And that doesn't mean we have to have deep technical skills. It doesn't. It just means we need to understand what is the power of the technology in terms of driving outcomes, and increasingly, what is the power of the technology in terms of intent. So are we clear in terms of what we are setting out to achieve using the technology? So I think it's a fascinating place to be.
Absolutely. And 100% agree with you that IT is a means to an end. 100% agree with you on that. Okay, great. Let's go back to Bärbel. Bärbel, given your focus on executive presence in an AI-driven landscape, yeah, ChatGPT everywhere, how do you coach leaders to project authenticity and influence when their teams are increasingly remote, global, reliant on digital communication tools?
I think it first starts with the person, with the leader itself. So if I coach executives, C-levels or future C-levels, high potentials, first of all, it's about this realizing that what do you want to do as a leader? You want to
Mhm.
spread your message and hopefully have people who buy into your vision. You want to influence people, you want to inform people and lead people. And therefore, you mentioned authenticity. This is key. This is the first thing. You cannot have a speechwriter and read from a teleprompter or anything if it doesn't resonate with yourself.
Yes.
Then you will never become a good leader, an inspiring leader. So being yourself is core. And then second, communication skills is absolutely core also. If you have a wonderful message and you're an inspiring person, but you don't get your message through because the way you speak is boring or not appealing or flat in the tone,
Yes.
then you don't get you don't get the delivery. You have the package, but
Yes.
you don't get it through. So this is the core things we start with. And then there is different aspects if this is on a one-to-one or remote or before 5,000 people. But all of this is a version of being yourself, know your message, and then develop wonderful communication skills. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and on this you build. And then it's no matter whether you lead people remotely or in presence or you speak on a big conference. Yes, Tony.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, I mean, we have to remember that organizations are fantastic at doing these town hall meetings. We're disrupting, we're doing AI, we're doing this, that, and the other. And when people leave those meetings, the first thing that goes through their mind is this management talking about downsizing? And will I have a job and all those type of things? So I
Yes.
agree. Having that vision of the future and being able to communicate, where everyone fits within that vision and the type of skills they will have to be able to operate in that vision is really key. I also think, though, that the top team needs to be joined at the hip because organizations are adept at finding out if there's a chink in the armor. And if you have a top team and, half of them are committed and half of them are not committed, well, the half that are not committed, all of their people will not be committed because, it's not because they necessarily said anything bad. It's just they never talk about it. So therefore, it's not important. Right? If it's not on the agenda, it's not in my goals, it's not important. Right? So if the top team is not joined up, and then there's another challenge in terms of, okay, well, most of your people don't meet the executive or the senior management on a day-to-day basis. They meet the middle management. So how are you going to make sure that the middle management are carrying the same message through? And that when, the people, that are reporting to them, when they look up, they're getting the same answers, the same consistencies, the same commitment to a vision, right? Because if they don't get that, they're going to get something else. Now, look, what's really telling is I often go into a board or an exec team and I'll use something like a Mentimeter and I'll ask them a simple question. Well, what do you mean by digital transformation? And let's say there's 10 of them in the room. I might get 26 answers. And I said, well, look, there's your first problem. And because I guarantee you, if we go down to the next level of the organization, let's say that's 35 people, well, now we're going to get another 100 answers. And then we drop down. So all of a sudden, you're dealing with a situation where there's 500, 1,000, 5,000 versions of what it is we're about.
Mm-hmm. And why we do it.
Yeah, why we do it. So really what you want is, an organization, and one of the organizations that I think really cracked this was DBS Bank in Singapore, where, they came up with this mantra of make banking joyful. And internally that worked. So externally, they had to change it to, live more, bank less, because, customers didn't understand what joyful banking meant. But internally, they got it. And that started to become a guiding force for everyone in terms of everything they did, because they were able to hold up every plan, every program, sort of say, actually, is this making banking more joyful for our customers? Right? And that permeated the whole organization. Now, that's what transformation is about. Not the town hall meeting where they say, well, we're doing X and Y, and the market is changing, so we have to change. Well, that's sort of blah, 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 blah. And then when they go home, they're sort of saying, will I have a job in 3 months? Do I need to start looking around? Or what does this mean for my department or whatnot? So unless there is that, shared vision that is owned by everyone.
And if this adds up, this fear of will I still have my job, of a mission that is not clear, I would like to add, it's not only people or leaders or middle management that are not engaged, but also people who are introvert, who are just not comfortable speaking before many people, who might be enthusiastic, who might be have a story, found their why, but they just don't get the message through. And then you have people who are insecure, everybody runs into a different direction. So I'm really convinced that it's not the companies, we talked about this technology, it's not the companies that are technology focused or fit. It's the companies that manage to develop this appetite of change and discovering and trying who will win the future.
Otherwise, they will miss the train.
Yeah, and they don't get this united power of the whole organization. If people don't understand where you're going and why, this
Yeah.
cannot work.
As humans, look, we're not good with change. We like routine. Right?
Of
Funny
Yeah.
enough.
course,
Uh,
of
uh,
course.
and as I say, the greatest killer in organizations is we've always done it this way. I mean,
Exactly.
what we need to be doing with technology, and Bärbel alluded to it there a little while back, is we need to be sort of saying is, well, what are we trying to do here and why? And should we be doing this at all? Because if all we do is, make it faster, but it's still irrelevant from the customer's perspective, all we have done is, increased our relevance in the market at a faster pace.
Absolutely.
So,
Faster nonsense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, Bärbel. Um, Claruna helps organizations, well, and now Nasiha, of course, helps organizations embrace AI without missing the train, as I alluded. What's, in your experience, a common train of thought or an internal narrative within organizations that you find most challenging to derail when it comes to AI adoption?
There's indeed several.
Okay.
So one is from IT or from outside IT that people say this is an IT topic. I loved when you said, Tony, now we're all in IT, but people say, well, this is technology, this is IT, I don't know, they will do. Or IT says they shouldn't do, we do. So this doesn't work. Then I hear company C-level, I hear it saying we don't have the time for this or we don't have the budget for this. Not even knowing what this is and what they could or would do about it. And then I hear people saying, yeah, we're not allowed to do it. And the worst maybe, and I think this is important to send the message out to C-levels, your colleagues, your employees will not wait until you are ready and you find the budget and you start to think about AI and strategy and future until you allow and enable people just to try around, because everybody has an AI in the pocket of their jeans and they use it every day. So don't spend more years to think about security and budget. AI is already in your company, unsecured, not aligned. And this could be the biggest problem.
Absolutely. Tony, your newsletter, the Digital Explorer Chronicles,
mm.
it focuses on AI, on governance, enterprise transformation. What's a specific under-discussed governance challenge posed by this rapid evolution of agentic AI?
I would say probably the biggest one. I mean, look, obviously the whole approach to ethics is really important, and we're way behind where we should be in reality, in my view. But I think the other thing that we're way behind on is thinking about how organizations will be run in the future, because
Yeah,
we need to re-envisage what the enterprise looks like, and it's not going to look like what it does today, because it's going to be an intelligent enterprise.
yes,
And that means it's no longer operating on a linear basis, and so it's cause and effect the whole way through. It's going to be operating on a basis where intelligent agents within the organization are going to be taking decisions, taking views, orchestrating things, making things happen. And we're not set up for that in terms of, as business leaders, do we understand, where all of this is happening, how it is happening, on what basis is it happening, on what outcomes are being driven by it, man? And, our span of control needs to move to span of intent, right? So what is happening in the organization? And are we happy this organization has been driven in the right way, both by humans and digital agents? So I don't think we have had real, deep thinking in organizations about how we run the enterprise in the future will be very, very different. And I think we need to catch up on that soon, because I agree with Bärbel. AI is in every organization. In fact, there was a piece done in the UK there where they showed people were paying for AI tools outside of work so they could use them in work. So not that their employers knew about it.
Yes.
So we need to be thinking. We need to be thinking about the enterprise of the future is going to be very different, and what it means to lead in the future is going to be very different, and how we manage intent. It's not about inputs and outputs anymore. It's about intent and outcomes, right? So we need to rethink that. And I don't see organizations in that space. I think they're still very silo driven. I think they're still very here and now driven. And I think that this train has left the station and it's time to get on it.
Yes. Do you want to take a second to explain what agentic AI is, just so that everybody's on the same page?
Yeah, so I mean, look, if you the way I like to describe it is that if you think of it in let's say football or soccer parlance, right? So yesterday you had a striker, so you had an AI who was a striker, but actually in this agentic world you have a goalkeeper, you have defenders, midfielders, whatnot, and they all work independently and together. So now you have a swarm of AI agents all working together. Now it's called agentic. Right?
Yes.
And if you take one of the big investment banks, they have one that does analysis. They have one that then comes at it looking at it from a compliance view, another that looks at it from a risk perspective, another that looks from a market perspective. So they have all these different agents that are with different goals. Right? They have a different goal orientation, but they're complementary and working together. Now, if you think about our organizations today, our organizations are kind of, well, they're command and control. They're very predictable. This is how we do things. There's our process maps. There's our this, that, and the other. That's all out the window potentially here. So in this agentic world where you have all of these, AI agents working collaboratively together and interrogating, coming up with answers and taking decisions, are we ready for that? So that's the world we're moving into.
Absolutely.
Tony, if we are already there, and we are there, that we have AI that works individually and in a team and come up with suggestions, solutions, decisions, if we refer back to this fear of many people, will there still be a place for me? Will I still have a job? How do you see this in the context of agentic AI?
Excellent question.
Here's where I see it. Look, the calculator didn't get rid of the accountant, neither did Excel or macros. But what it meant was the accountant actually would add a higher level of value and insight to the organization. And we need to think about this in the same way. Why would we want our people doing boring, monotonous work if that can all be done by AI agents of some sort? Well, surely we want to actually invest in our people so that they can apply critical thinking. They can make sure that the ethics of the organization are being safeguarded and that they're happy that there's no bias or corruption of the data, etc., so that the outcomes that we're driving are great. So I think this is about moving up the value chain, but that means we have to invest in our people, and they need to be able to understand, well, actually, there is a future for me. And here's what the organization is going to do to make sure that I have a role to play in this future, because they're going to teach me about AI. They're going to run me through different programs. They're going to show me how I can do this. They're going to give me different types of controls and whatnot that I can do things. If we just sort of say, well, we're just overlaying AI, they definitely will think I don't have a job.
Yes. And also from yourself, keep learning. I mean, everything is there. You can learn for free. It's just amazing. Don't wait for your company to invest in you, which is great and important. But self-driven, continuous, lifelong learning. Be curious. Read,
absolutely.
learn, do, try. This is so important. We need to move. We need to continue learning. Be open.
Every day is a learning day, and look, you need to be learning every single day. Because the world that we know today is not the same as the world we knew yesterday, and tomorrow will be different again. So one of the biggest issues with digital disruption is not the digital disruptive technologies, it's the fact that our skill set becomes redundant. And
Yes,
so I'm absolutely with you on this, Bärbel. It's around, how do I keep reinvesting in my skills so that, I am always contemporary in my understanding of what is happening and how I can tap into these skills and tools and technologies and everything else. But if I think that I can operate, and look, this is one of the challenges that I see, around boards and executive tables. Let's say, the average age of a board is 60, being kind, right? Let's say the average age of an executive is late 40s or early 50s, whatever. None of this was on the curriculum when they went to college. The world was predicated on intense rivalry between competitors in an industry. Well, that's no longer relevant, right? Like, what's an industry? Something statisticians came up so to collect data. Your competition can come from absolutely anywhere. The types of technologies and type of business models, etc., that are available, they weren't even on the curriculum. Right? So this is why we need to keep relearning and expanding our skill set.
And changing the time of 3 assistants in front of your office. This is over. The way of working. So embrace this change. Mark, if you allow, I just thought of something that I would like to share with you guys.
Sure.
My wonderful mother, who's a very wise and intelligent woman, she will be 90 this year. And when I go see her, we talk AI, we create music, we research stuff she likes. It's amazing how open she is for this and how fascinated. She has never learned to use a computer. She didn't need. Like 60 is something, but 90 is even way before this. So she was a teacher. She never used one. And my father was very advanced with this, so she didn't need. My dad did online banking and everything. He had an iPad and a computer, laptop, and she didn't need this. So today, for her, it's difficult to use her iPad, to use her smartphone, swiping, knowing where to touch and how to get somewhere. She completely gets AI. She is so interested in it, but it's difficult to open WhatsApp. So just referring again to what you just said, Tony, people keep on learning. Don't be afraid. Just go with the flow. Because if you don't, maybe there will be a moment when the knowledge gap is just too large,
Absolutely.
And Mark, can I just add though, look, one of the things, and I often say this to executives, is that, look, they don't need to know how to write the algorithm.
No,
they
absolutely
need to know how the algorithm will drive outcomes, and they need to focus on, well, are they outcomes they would be happy with? Right? The mechanics of it, they don't need to know how to build it. Right? You can pay someone to do that, but they need to know that an algorithm actually will drive certain outcomes in the organization. And are we happy that those outcomes are good? And are we happy that we have safeguards in place to make sure that we're preventing bias and other things that could go wrong? Because that's what the role is. It's not to write the algorithms. It's to understand how to harness the technologies to achieve the outcomes.
Absolutely. If I may, Tony, you were talking about what AI actually has done and where we are today and where we're going. And I had a question for you about that. If you could fast forward 10 years, what specific unthinkable business model enabled by AI and digital disruption do you believe will become commonplace? And what steps should companies take today to prepare for that scenario?
The one that fascinates me most is, they're talking about, one-person unicorns. I just haven't figured out the right idea for it yet. But I think we're moving into a world where it could go in many ways. And I think, look, there's a lot of geopolitics involved in this as well, in terms of digital sovereignty and all those type of things. And it remains to be seen where we end up. But organizations will be intelligent organizations. The likes of NVIDIA would call them AI factories. But there's no doubt that intelligence will be embedded into every part of the organization.
Yes.
And that means that, organizations can be, they won't be 9 to 5. There's an interesting one for you, right? Because these organizations, like your dark kitchens and whatnot, they'll work 24/7, 365 days a year. And they will work with real data as opposed to, judgment. So they will have all the data Bärbel mentioned earlier. They will have access to everything. They will know everything, right? They'll know more than we know, right? So I think when we think about this world, we need to be sort of thinking, well, okay, how will those organizations be managed and run in the future? And what type of skills are going to be needed to do that? Because I think we're moving into unknown territory here. Because
Yes.
our model of command and control, that's based on army thinking.
Yes.
That's gone, right? It's not gone yet, but it's in terms of conceptually that's gone. So I think what we need to be thinking about is how will these intelligent enterprises work, and what does that mean for us as organizations? You take something like a brand. So if I'm a big brand, what if actually it's no longer about my presence on web pages and apps and this, that, and the other? Because the intelligent app in the genes that Bärbel mentioned, it actually is negotiating everything I need with companies, and I'm not even involved in it. So I think what we need to do as organizations is we need to start thinking now of possible futures and how we might succeed in those futures, and then work back from there in terms of, well, how would we need to change if we want to be able to operate in that world?
Absolutely, Tony.
It's
Absolutely.
not going to be the same as it is today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's not a completely new model. Intelligent people have researched and written about this, that future leaders will be far more enabling their network. So we don't have these hierarchies, but living in a network where different people on different topics will interact with each other, and moving forward with a lot of freedom, but also clear boundaries, strategic direction. And I think for future leaders, you far more have to manage this network and to enable people and encourage them, those people who are directly with the customer, who are directly with production, so that they can run their job, going far more away from this horizontal or silo or hierarchical
Yes.
hierarchically organized companies. If you think of like Frederic Laloux or Niels Pfleging, they have all developed these models of you're in the center, and then you have your network organization where experts and people in touch with the market act, and you enable them, you give leadership and ownership to them. And my impression is that a lot of companies still have to catch up on this or go further with this to be ready for a future that will be even faster, even more AI supported.
And can I just add to that? I
Sure.
think one of the challenges is that, look, if, and I put an article out the other day around, basically said, what if AI becomes the analyst? And if you think this through, what if everyone has the same AI capability in their organization? Where do we start to differentiate? So, and that comes down to, well, actually, what is the role of people in our organization? And what are the unique things that they're going to bring to the table? And it could be ethical, it could be trustworthy, but also it has to be, well, actually, we have a vision for what we want to do and how we're going to use this. Because if we just become subservient to all the AI technologies, the market will be homogeneous for everything, right? There will be no differentiation. So
Yes.
I think we need to, look at this and sort of say, okay, that's table stakes. That is not a differentiator. If we don't have it, we won't be able to compete. But if we do have it, well, so will everyone else. And there's a friend of mine in Canada wrote a great article there a couple of years back, and he said you can buy all the same technology as Netflix, but it won't make you Netflix. And his point was, of course, you can get all the same technology, but they have a mindset in terms of what they're trying to do, and you can't replicate that mindset through technology, right? If you have a similar mindset, you can of course you can harness similar technologies, but it was around the mindset. So I think we need to be thinking about what is a unique role of humans in our organization in 10 years' time that differentiates us from everyone else who will have the same AI capabilities potentially.
Yes, and it's mindset, it's culture, it's empathy. Even if an AI can answer in an empathic way, it remains a machine. It doesn't have empathy. It's not human. So this brings me back to the beginning of our discussion. I love the discussion where we say remain human and remain creative and keep learning. Don't delegate everything to AI, because then indeed, exactly, Tony, everything gets the same and everybody can have the same. So make the difference and use AI, but create your own culture and keep your empathy up and be human, be in touch with people.
Yeah. As Jack Welch says, create your own destiny or someone else will. And I think that there is a real challenge here in that if we all become subservient to AI models of a handful of companies, they will write our destiny. They will be the ones that become more intelligent, not us. Right? So organizations need to be clear in terms of how they want to harness these technologies for their benefit to achieve their ambitions in life, which are
Absolutely.
obviously centered around customers.
Absolutely. Tony, what's a common pitfall you observe organizations falling into when they attempt to operationalize world-class customer experiences, especially with new technologies? And how does Access CX actually help them avoid those?
So look, there's this big. I suppose. Look, if we think about the world and we think about call centers and BPOs and all those type of things, which have been providing outsourced customer experience services for years, that model was built on labor arbitrage, and that's no longer actually the requirement going forward. Because
Mhm.
it is quite incredible to see the advances in technology, particularly in the CX space, where everything from real-time translation, accent neutralization, to prompts in the ears of you have a headset on, so as you're talking to the customer, the AI could be saying, well, actually, Mark, this is the answer, or this is what you need to say, or you should recommend this. So we're now moving into a space where actually it's around intelligent augmentation. So how are we going to make agents more human, more intelligent, more responsive, and create better services and experiences? Because it's no longer a case of, well, I need 100 people and I need them at a cheaper price, or whatever the equation might be. It's, I need to deliver a great experience, and I need to know that the people who I'm using in this are going to deliver that great experience, that they are going to be empathetic, that they are going to be informed, they're going to be on point, they're going to be intelligent in the conversation.
Yes. Yes,
Because look,
absolutely.
we've all had experiences, whether you're dealing with a company or it's outsourced provider or whatever, where you ring up and apart from all the, press one, press six, and then if you eventually get through to someone, they might say, well, actually, that's not our department. We'll have to transfer you, and then you get cut off. Forget about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's not the world that customers. One of the great things about digital disruption is, the likes of Amazon, Netflix, Google, whatnot, they raise the bar in terms of what we expect by way of service.
Yes.
And the same now is happening with customer experience. If you cannot bring intelligent augmentation to the party, you are operating on a redundant model where price arbitrage will actually lose its value, because it's not about the cheapest, it's about the best. And increasingly, that's the world we're moving into.
100% agree with you on this. Bärbel, talking again about your book, it highlights ethical AI and governance. What's a lesser known but critical ethical blind spot that companies often overlook when implementing AI, and what are the downstream consequences that you have seen?
What comes first to my mind is when companies start to go into AI and then they go bold and they go fast and they go big, you have to take with you the humans again. So there's people by nature who are very excited, and there's people who are involved, people maybe who are technical, so love it, and it's not such a big step. But there is also people being afraid, and especially being afraid to speak up, feeling like I missed the train, I don't know what this is, what it does, and so on.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to keep the human in your mind.
Yes.
And if you are excited about AI, wonderful, go for it. But don't forget that people are there who also want to join the train or refuse. Help them to understand, to go smoothly, and to be part of this.
Tony, sorry, you're a senator for Ireland at the WBAF. How
Yeah.
do you see the global angel investment landscape adapting to the funding needs of deep tech AI startups, especially those with long research and development cycles?
So I think there's a couple of things. I think, look, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to embed AI in your business from the outset. And there's no point in building a model for a previous decade. If you're bringing something to the market, the expectation is it's going to be AI enabled, right? That
Yes.
AI will be at the center of whatever it is you're doing. Um, as investors look at markets, their ability to analyze and compare and contrast now is gone through the roof, because something that might have taken a week they can do in a matter of an hour. Right? So you want to use AI to interrogate. I want to interrogate the entrepreneurial market in Ireland, particularly in relation to AI and medtech. You probably have a report generated in 20 minutes. That might have taken you quite a while up to
Yeah.
now, and you might have had to pay someone to do it. So I think if you're not at the table in terms of AI is an expectation. So if you're talking about building something and it doesn't have AI in it, now look, there is a downside to this in that there's a lot of organizations undoubtedly doing AI washing, where oh yeah, we're doing AI, and they there's some platitude about what they're doing in AI, but they're not really doing AI, because at best they're doing some sort of AI pilot that actually the rest of the organization is ignoring. So it's not becoming part of the DNA of the organization. So,
Absolutely.
I think if you're serious, you will have AI embedded in your business model from the very outset, and investors will look at that and sort of say, actually, that's very interesting what you're proposing to do there, and we can see how actually you could disrupt the market, or why this is a good value creation vehicle. And if you're talking about doing something and it's based on an analog world, well, yeah, those days are gone.
Absolutely. Beyond the traditional metrics, how do you help clients measure the qualitative impact of AI adoption on employee morale, on creativity, and the overall organizational culture?
I don't know if this is so much about measuring it. When I do consulting, when it comes to implementing, to start somewhere, again, I start with this bottom up and top to bottom approach. As the leadership team, think about what you want to achieve, not in AI, but in your business. And
Yeah.
then we can develop where AI can help you, make you faster, make you better. And on the other side, take your people with you. Again, help humans who are unique. And it's so important to keep this human kind in your business, not with the fear, will I be replaced by AI? But what do I bring to the party? Um, what makes us actually different from AI? So we
Yes.
connect with each other, we feel
Yes.
each other, we inspire each other. Um, so help people to dare and to go and to play and not be afraid of what you learn today is outdated tomorrow. Just jump in and try it and do it and go forward. So
Absolutely.
this two-side approach for me is very important. I'm doing this, but in the future it will more be like this, as we said before. Create a company where people are able, who are in touch with the customer, in touch with production, in touch with where your business happens, that they can develop and grow and give the better experience and do the faster, deeper, better process. If you
Okay.
always go back to, boss, I have an idea, can I do it? That's too lame. That's too slow. This will not
Yes.
work.
Can I just
Tony?
add? Yeah, I think, look, organizations need to invest in AI literacy, but it can't be the usual sheep dip. Oh yeah, we put everyone through an AI training program.
Yeah.
What did they learn? They didn't learn much, but we did it. Tick box. And what we need to do is we need to educate all of our people on AI, and then what we need to do is set up situations where they can put it to use, so that they learn by doing. Because you
Mhm.
go you go on a course and you come back from it. What did you learn? You might have picked up one or two things. What did you use? Probably nothing. Right? Whereas if you orchestrate this in a way that you're making it practical for your people, and then they can start to apply it in their work and learn from it, you're now starting to embed it in how they do things. Because look, if we don't think differently about the business, we don't change our mindset, we keep doing the same things. And if we keep doing the same things, the culture doesn't change.
Absolutely.
So we need to create this environment where they start to understand and start to see opportunities, but then they start to have opportunities to apply it, and then look at the results and sort of say, wow, look at that, that's really interesting. And you know what, it's great, but if we did this, it could even be better. Now you've got an organization where it's starting to really rotate around, how to make this part of what we do.
Yes, absolutely. Bärbel, considering your extensive experience with diverse leadership styles across continents, I all the time see that you're in Germany, you're in France, the United States, back. What's a surprising culture nuance you've observed that significantly impacts the adoption and success of digital initiatives?
Maybe it's curiosity, to open up your mind, because curiosity will help you dare to enter in this new world. Well, which basically is not that new anymore, but this ever changing world. Maybe it's that one, and paired with courage and an optimistic view into the future, I think this should be very good ingredients in the culture to go for it.
Mhm.
Can I add? I
Please,
think
please.
one of the reasons we're seeing these new large language models come out in different geographies is because Silicon Valley might be great, but we all don't have the culture of Silicon Valley.
Yes,
So the Middle East is developing its own large language models. Why? Because their
yes,
culture is different, and they want to have a large language model that reflects their culture. The same in India, the same in Asia, whatnot. So I think that makes loads of sense on one level, but there's other things going on there in terms of, look, there are different value systems that operate. So the West tends to be very individualistic, and so it's all about the individual. The East tends to be more collaborative. It's around the team, and these factors need to be taken into account. Also, things like context, like some of us might need very little context. We're happy to get on and do things and make decisions. Others, they want a lot of context because they're thinking with their heart as opposed to their brain, or it's the way they do things. So I think there's a lot of cultural nuances that need to be understood in any given market, because a one size fits all is the wrong answer. It has to be appropriate to the culture, it has to be appropriate to the market, and it has to be something that the people can relate to. Otherwise you're imposing something on them that they're looking at, sort of saying, why are we doing this? This is not how we see the world, or this is not how we do things.
yes, absolutely.
If I may add to this again
Sure.
is the human part of the game, because the technology is there accessible to everybody, but now how you use it and what you make out of it, which experience you create, this indeed is so different for your culture, for the region, for the branch, for the people you deal with. So this is the twist we give as humans by using this amazing technology.
Absolutely. Tony, if I may, given your deep expertise in fintech, what is an unconventional application of AI or blockchain with financial services that you believe is highly undervalued but holds immense disruptive potential?
So one of the interesting things about financial services, and look, I would have a view that most financial services talk a great game in terms of customer centricity, but the P&L is invariably driven by products and channels, so they're not really that customer centric. They are to a point, but they're not built around the customers. And I think fintech is obviously coming from the perspective of they try to be built more around the customer and the customer needs, but a lot of it actually is just addressing problems in the process of the existing incumbents. I think the real opportunity for all of financial services, including fintechs, is to harness AI where actually you can be customer centric for real. because you now start to understand each customer at an individual level in terms of everything they are doing with your organization, but importantly, what they are doing in their life. Because it's not about the bank or the insurance company, whatnot. It's about what are they actually trying to do in their life and where do you fit into it. And I think if we use this opportunity well, we can start to become genuinely customer centric and deliver great experiences. Because the reality is, you ring any organization and oh, well, we need this. Well, I gave you that last week. Well, that was a different department or whatever. We just make it difficult for customers. And AI is an opportunity to redefine what it means to be customer centric and what it means to deliver a great customer experience.
Great talk. Thank you very much for sharing this. Bärbel, if I may, beyond the buzzwords, what's a tangible, often overlooked benefit of true data-driven decision making that has fundamentally shifted how a client or an organization you've worked with operates?
So as precondition, we already need the data to be read and to be based on. This also is a topic in companies. They have a lot of data, but difficult to bring it together and have the data you need. But that's not your question. I am absolutely convinced that it's a great help to have data-based decision making, but it's going too short if you only base on this. There again, and it might be boring, I repeat myself, we as human beings, we have something called intuition for our customers, for our business, for many things. So if we only decide by gut feeling, this might be very biased and might go very wrong. If we only decide based on data and what algorithms deliver to us where we should go, and we do not implement our critical thinking, we do not implement our intuition, we do not implement our culturally driven decision-making capabilities, this is wrong also, I think. If both come together, then you avoid bias, but you still bring this human side of things.
Nice, thank you very much for sharing. Tony, if I may, beyond technical skills, what is the most critical soft skill that leaders and teams need to cultivate to truly thrive in an era of continuous digital disruption and AI integration?
Oh, look, I believe there's more than one, but I think ethics is one for sure. Empathy is another, as in genuine empathy. I think you need to. If we look at the top jobs for 2030, a lot of them hinge around disruptive technologies, but most of them are soft skills. So judgment, critical thinking, collaboration, teamwork, all those type of things. And if we think about the world where actually the technology does a lot of the grunt work, well, actually they're the type of skills we need. We need to be able to mobilize around that. We need to be able to exercise judgment. We need to critically analyze, and they're the type of skills that we need to build in our people. Because look, the jury is out on whether you need to teach people to code or not. NVIDIA say no one needs to learn how to code. Meta would say no, everyone should learn how to code. But the reality is that whether you can code or not, the reality is that you can talk to your smartphone and it'll do the coding for you. That's where we're going. So, but you need to have that grounded in terms of our ethical considerations, our values, all those type of things. So I think our real challenge now is soft skills and critical thinking skills.
I 100% agree with that. I 100% even relate to that. But I'll tell you why maybe in the next episode. Before we close, I really would like to hear last words from each, and then I have a question for both of you. Would you like Bärbel to start? Any last words?
Last word for the podcast, right? It sounds a bit dramatic. I would like to share that I have really so much enjoyed this exchange with you guys. I think we covered so many things, and I personally could continue for hours. It was very inspirational, Tony. It was great exchanging, and also with you, Marc.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Yeah, no, I agree with Barbara. I think, look, I would say to people is don't get obsessed with AI being a technology. Obsess about what can we do with our business and how AI might help us, because that's a much more comfortable zone for everyone. If we think we need to be a technology expert, we're already underwater. So forget about it as a technology. Think about it as another tool within our business and something that could help us achieve our ambitions. So, but yeah, look, it's been a great discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm more than happy to share that we will have actually more sessions with Tony. So please do expect us with Tony very soon. We will be announcing those on LinkedIn as usual. But thank you very much for today. It was really an amazing discussion. But before I say goodbye to everybody, I have a question for both of you. Why did the AI break up with the chatbot?
No.
Why did AI
break up with the chatbot?
Why did it break up with the chatbot?
I'm curious to hear the story.
Oh, go on, tell us.
AI broke up with the chatbot because it was tired of the meaningless back and forth and wanted to start a relationship with an agentic AI that could actually get things done.
Yeah, except it wasn't one AI.
That's another story. Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you very much, Bärbel. It was really an amazing time. Thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed that, as I'm sure everybody has enjoyed that in our audience. We thank everybody, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you very much. Here's my greetings from Switzerland.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, we're offline. Thank you very much. It was really